Hi.
Okay, so before we started recording, we just said, let's just hit record and see what happens. So,
Yeah, this
welcome to
this
the
is
circus.
unplanned, unscripted, behind the scenes. Yeah, all that stuff.
Whatever else is in
Whatever
line
comes
with
out of
that.
us.
Yeah, this should be fun. But the reason we wanted to have this is, first of all, this is going to be our most vulnerable episode yet. We are
Yeah,
all
I'm
about
kind of
having
scared.
fun. Don't be scared. I got you, girl. Got you. But the reason we're having this is because a couple weeks ago, Katie and I were just talking on Zoom or on the phone or something. You admitted something to me and it started a whole conversation. Do you want to share what you said?
Yeah, it's something that I'd been like feeling cooking up inside me for a while, but I didn't really know. I guess I was kind of afraid to say it out loud because I didn't know what that would mean or like how you would feel, or yeah, it meant that I would have to like address it, I guess. But yeah, the past, I guess, couple months really, I've been feeling pretty low pretty often. And I do have depression, so that is a thing that happens, but it's been more than normal. And I started getting the Sunday Scaries
Dun dun
our job,
dun.
for our
Yeah.
job that we created for ourselves, which we went off to do our own thing and not work at for other people because we wanted to build a job that would bring us joy. And yeah, so it just recognizing the fact that I was feeling really reluctant to leave the weekend and go to work on Monday was something that made me feel very nervous and uncomfortable and weird because I literally we built this job for ourselves and we had like every possibility at our fingertips of what we could build, and to build something and then recognize like, okay, I'm not having the joy or the feelings that I feel like I wanted to or that I should. It's scary to face that fact, and that the result of that is, okay, I need to make a change, and that's a scary thing to do.
Yeah,
But
especially with a
yeah,
heart.
that's how I've been feeling. And I finally told Ilana a couple weeks ago, and man, she was so supportive. But we've kind of like, we talked it out and have kind of come up with some ideas of kind of how to restructure things potentially to try and bring some of that joy back in. So, do you want to kind of talk about what your
Yeah.
response to that was?
I was like, oh my God, you're leaving me. No, I do
No,
want to add that,
I would
like,
never leave you.
at no
Please don't
point
leave me.
was there, like, I just want to clear the air that at no point was there an issue between Katie and I. There wasn't something I did that she was like, I'm not enjoying coming to work with you. And
No.
again, we live in different cities, different states, actually, different time zones. There was no like issue. But I will say we were in a season where we bit off more than we could chew. And I
Oh,
think part of the reason we said yes to so much is we're like excited. We like doing these things. But also for the past 3 years that we've had the reins at Good Type, I don't know if we felt this or we never like openly said this, but I think I felt like we have to prove ourselves
oh yeah.
why we were the ones who got to steer this ship. And like, we have never felt or claimed to be the best artists or the best business owners. So, why is it that out of all the followers on Good Type, why did we get to the opportunity? And I think we've been playing this game of like, okay, well, we have this amazing opportunity. How do we make the most of it? And so there was no like, I knew we were coming off of a busy season. And I, over the past year, have probably said, especially to Emily, like, once we get through this, we're going to have some more time to like chill. Once we get through this, once we get through this. And so it just like kept going. Emily never mentioned it to me, but I'm like, she probably noticed that I said that all the time. And I felt like I was saying it all the time. So for Katie to like tell me how she was feeling, I wasn't like, that's so crazy. You seem totally fine. I was like, that makes sense. This was a lot to handle. But the first thought I had was like, how do I help my friend? Because Katie and I are friends. We used to talk all the time. And I think the first thing I said was just like, take what you need. Like, we're not doctors. We're not saving lives here. So let me know what you need and how I can support you. And I think that conversation was like maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
about right.
And I think we have landed in a really good place where we feel both excited, but also that we need to make sure we do these check-ins and yeah, just check in with each other really frequently.
Yeah, I think there's a really difficult kind of area when you transition from like primarily creating and being an artist full time into like education, providing content and like services for other people, that's something that we both feel really passionate about. And I certainly didn't plan, though, to go in that direction with
Same.
my career. Like it happened by accident and felt really right. But yeah, we've talked about our story before on the podcast and elsewhere, but Ilana and I both, before we met, were working as art directors at agencies, and we both just felt like there was something missing. We wanted to kind of go out and work for ourselves. And so we did. And both of us experienced the highs and lows of being self-employed artists. And we learned a lot, mainly that there was so little support and education out there for artists like us who are trying to run their own businesses. There is just not enough resources out there. And so as we learned more and more, and Ilana and I are both very similar in like our pursuit of knowledge, and just I, for one, love to research. And I know Ilana and I were both, before we met each other, listening to all the business podcasts and all the business books. And Ilana grew up with entrepreneur parents. So once we started getting a handle on things, we were like, oh, I want to share this with other people because this is such a underrepresented area in education. So we just kind of fell into it. And that's how Ilana and I met too. She slid into my DMs because I wanted to create a course about art licensing, which I had just realized was a thing and had started implementing in my business. And so had she. And so we ended up creating that course together, and then things kind of snowballed from there.
I think we also both, it's a natural progression for when you get good at something that people ask you to teach them. Even if you're pretty new, but you're doing something that's maybe different, it's a natural progression to teach. And when you're excited to share something, also great for teaching. But I think also we tell people, even in our classes, like, listen to your audience. If your audience is showing up in your DM saying, oh, can you teach me this? Can you teach me that? You respond. And people wanted that from us. Also, like, hold on, like, we're not quitting or we're not teaching content anymore. We are just making a shift in our business that we're really excited about. So people were asking us, we did tons of surveys, like, what do you want to learn next? And sometimes when people said things like, I want to learn more about business, it took some like pretty good flops for us to be like, okay, well, they do want to learn about business, but not that way. And so we tried a lot of things over the past 3 years. We've had programs that didn't go as planned. We've had some programs that go really well. And we've found a couple things that can shape our business that we feel really, really good about. And we did spend like the better part of the last year getting automations set up in our business. So like our courses run completely on the back end. Besides like the management of talking to our students, I feel pretty good about like we can kind of sit back and consider that passive income besides marketing, which is sort of like integrated into our what we talk about anyway. Those kind of run in the background. And so we knew that coming up, we were going to have some maybe freedom, or I guess we hadn't even really thought that far because we were like in this vicious cycle of saying yes to things. But yeah, teaching was like a natural progression for us, but neither of us were like, oh, we're going to become teachers and educators and not artists. And I know we've all seen the person online who like blows up because of their course. And then that's all they talk about is they go from doing the craft to doing the teaching. And neither of us ever wanted to only be doing the teaching. And so we kind of became the people who we said we didn't want to become, but we also learned a lot along the way and became better people. And yeah, we learned a lot of skills and things we did not think we would need to know. And I'm really happy to have all of those skills, but we miss making art for sure.
Yeah. And teaching people is education in itself. We've grown so much from walking through people's businesses with them, and you get different perspectives from trying to figure out what angle I need to present this for somebody's brain to like click. Yeah, so we've had so much great stuff come out of the education. But yeah, to be honest, I've been seeing a lot of chatter on social media about like when people create courses, like Ilana was saying, when people create courses and then they stop doing the thing. And to be honest, I feel like I've got some insecurities around that. I want to be the teacher that's like teaching and fully got my hands in the thing. But it's just so hard when you're trying to devote the time to create the content that for the education. And so, yeah, we've just been brainstorming like, okay, how can we do enough creating on our own to make us feel that excitement, the fulfillment of getting that artist side scratched properly. And I think that's honestly what's going to help me get out of the rut, is doing some stuff for myself too, as well as the education for other people.
Yeah, we've spent so much time doing this avenue, and we've talked to so many students and critiqued so much work and seen our students grow to the point that they can be educators. Like, I'm not trying to like take credit for that, but we've seen students from the beginning of their art days. It's been several years, and now they're teaching their own courses and they're crushing it. And honestly, looking at our students' work has inspired me so much. And I'm like, oh, I miss those days where I'm like just making to make art, and like every waking second must be filled with art making. Now I have 2 kids. I don't feel the need to like every night pull out my iPad and like make something for fun. But I do realize that like I'm not making artwork for fun anymore at all. And we crave that. And so after Katie and I had this conversation where we talked about like things that are making us feel good, things that we hate doing. And also I will say, because we have intended to keep a very lean business, I think people who have never listened to the podcast or met us or whatever, they expect that Good Type is like a machine where we have like a ton of people. And that made sense back in the day when it was this pretty large feature account. But it is Katie and I and Emily, and we have a couple contractors, like someone edits our podcast. We have a web designer. You've probably heard us talk about Kate, but pretty much everything else. Like months ago, Katie and I were filming our course for Skillshare, and it was like we were the production, we were the editors, we were the audio, whatever, sound engineers. We were everything. We had to scout, and not that that is like so much and we should be praised, but like we intentionally kept our business lean so that we could be in control and also keep costs down. And so Katie ended up doing a lot of the tech stuff because my brain, ADHD, does not work well with that. Like I literally, anytime you've seen an email go out that's like, maybe there's a typo, maybe the wrong link, you've gotten an email, you don't know why. That's me. Hi, I'm the problem. But it's just, we've been taking on roles that like maybe we're not that excited about. And it's great that we took them on so that we can learn and figure out how to navigate that in our business. But it doesn't mean it's fun.
Yeah.
And if we're the curators of this and we get to design our own jobs, I would like to take that out.
Yeah. And we've ventured into different ways of trying to outsource some of the stuff, and some of it has worked and some of it hasn't. We've learned a lot of lessons along the way. And yeah, it's hard to take your hands off of things in your business, even when you don't like them, just because you want everything to run properly. And when you're bringing in people that are like new or that you don't know or that aren't as invested in your business, sometimes things can be like overlooked or not thought about. And so we feel like even when we outsource things, we have to still be kind of involved in it. Yeah. So that's been like a learning process too. How to outsource, how to hire people. Man, thank goodness for Emily. We absolutely,
I was just going to say,
are so lucky to have help with our social and to have her around. She is a gem, and we feel like, if we didn't have her, we would not be at this point at all.
For sure. And even just the camaraderie and like being able to talk to her from an objective place of like, hey, we want to post this. What do you think? Or like just to run things by her as someone who like comes from the graphic design world and can just give us an opinion. But when you work with contractors, especially if they own their own business, they're not going to care as much about your business as you do. And that's when things do fall through the cracks. And I'm not saying that this happens with everyone. It's just really hard to find the right people, especially if they are kind of fresh and are saying yes to things where maybe they don't understand all of it, but they want to learn. You have to be patient and you have to understand that there's a learning curve. They're going to need to learn the systems. And so we spent the last 2 years making our own system, making like scope systems of, what is it, SOP? What am I thinking?
Oh, now my brain is going blank.
What is an SOP?
Something standard operating procedure.
Thank you. Like we do a lot of things over.
See, this is where we're at right now.
We're fried. And we like wrote down a list so that someone could come in, but it's like there are places where it's almost easier to do it yourself. with social media, it has been the best way to delegate. We delegate our finances. There are things that are
Yeah.
totally worth it. But a lot of the stuff, I think, especially because we want to stay creating, we've like needed to hold on to that. So I guess this is probably a good transition to talk about what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Katie came to me, I obviously like my heart. I was like, oh my God, how can I support my friend? And don't you dare think about leaving. No, like we'll figure it out together. Go for it. What were you going to say? I
No,
see
I
it
was just
bubbling.
going to say I would never leave you. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
thing that, like, sure, in my brain is like we
Same.
work so well. I feel like I was trying to figure out, okay, I know the one thing that is great
Yeah.
about this, not the one thing, but the best thing about our business
It's
is
me.
the partnership that we have. And
Yeah.
so whatever we do, I want to keep that like at the core for sure.
Thank you. And I will say, when it comes down to partnerships, like I'm listening to this book now by, oh no, again with the brain. I'll link it in the show notes or something, but there's this section about working with other people, and freelancing, in the nature of freelancing, can be incredibly isolating. And for the first few years, and actually like pre-kids, I was like, this is glorious. I literally did whatever I wanted whenever I wanted, but I also worked like a lot of nights and weekends. And then having kids, like literally everything changed. But now my kids are like back, they're in daycare or school. And I'm like, this is so exhausted. Like I'm exhausted and I need human connection. And so thankfully, Katie and I talking to each other every day really fuels a lot of that. But in this book that I'm reading, it was talking about how like just the mindset shift that people have without even knowing it. They did this study where half the group, they were working on like a puzzle or something, and half the group got like a tip from what was pretending to be like someone else in the group in the room. And then someone else got it from like the instructor or like the research study host. And the people who got the anonymous tip, they were like, it's someone in the room. Just everything about them was better. They were like, oh, someone's on my team. I'm working with someone. I don't want to disappoint them. It like just changed everything. And I really feel we have that. But we also have different styles. And so our process is a little different. We have different strengths. And so we've only done a couple pieces together. We're like genuinely creating art. We've only done a few. And we've talked about like, oh, maybe one day we'll get to like collaborate more. That would be really fun. But when Katie came to me and shared her feelings with me, I was just kind of like, take all the time you need. And then I sort of like head to the ground, kept chugging along and just checked in on her and was like, how do you feel? Do you need to talk? And then you came to me at 10 p.m. one night and sent me a text, and just like, that was it. You just sent me a text with an idea. And I was like, okay, you want to,
Yeah.
should I pull it up?
Sure.
Okay. It was like very random. Like you're not really like a after hours texter either. Like we typically, I would say we say goodbye for the day and say, have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
your
it was,
notifications usually turn off. So it's like, I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I better not text her.
No, you could text me. Anytime.
But this was an emergency.
This was an emergency. This was like literally 10 o'clock at night. It says, what if next year we go all in on our careers as artists, freelancing, art licensing, whatever we want. We work together to find clients for ourselves or for collabs, and we help each other through the whole process. And we'll document the whole thing and turn it into content and education for good type. And what did I write back? I sent a picture
You sent
of
a
Michael's,
meme, right?
Yeah, it says, I'm in. And I had actually just finished sketching out like 7 greeting card ideas that I was inspired by one of Katie's pieces for. And I was just like, great, I'm in. And then the next day I was like, do you want to talk about that? Or like, do you want to just wait? And we talked about it. And so we came up with an experiment.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've still been doing some art licensing on the side, obviously, and taking on the occasional freelance project. I feel like it's getting more and more sparse as we get more like deeper and deeper into good type. But yeah, the thought is that 2025 will be the year of focusing on what happens if we go all in on our art careers, and we help each other along the way so we don't feel that loneliness. And I think too, we should talk about like our financial plan around that too, because I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Instead of like Ilana being for herself and me being for myself, we are maybe going to do a mix of collabs and some stuff that Ilana really wants to do by herself, some stuff I want to do by myself, but we're going to put anything that we make into like a pool and just split it 50-50. So that we're equally invested in supporting each other, in doing the outreach together, in making sure the art is awesome. Like every part of the process, we're going to be equally invested, which I haven't heard of people kind of teaming up and like splitting it in that way. And I think I'm really excited about that.
I am also. And I think there's a few reasons this works. And I think we can even share like what we're going to do when we're recording this. We're prepping for the conference. And Katie, we've each got 2 weeks of vacation coming up. We've got Adobe Max. So we have some things that we like have to finish working on.
We have our
And
book.
then, oh, right.
That
Oh my
little
God.
thing.
That little tiny thing. I actually was literally working on it right before this call. And so we just recently, like, I started a Notion page and I just wrote down like the experiment and I wrote down all the things that came to mind because I always have messy first draft, tons of ideas. And so I think one of the reasons this works well is because the things that maybe Katie doesn't love doing are things that I might be better at and vice versa. And so we started writing them down and trying to figure out all the logistics. And what we'll do is we'll break them into 90-day sprints. And basically, we'll be one of our own students. This is like exactly what we put our students through. And it's been so long since I've made work that I'm really proud of. And all of that brings up a lot of feels while you're writing a book about finding your style. So
yeah,
I have like written
imposter
down
syndrome.
Yeah, it's she here. Yeah, there's like a lot of ideas. And so what we'll do is break it into like 90-day sprints where we can focus on maybe one 90-day sprint is me focusing on collab idea. And then maybe the next, while Katie's finessing or fine tuning some of my designs, then maybe she's like sketching hers and then we can flip flop and stuff like that. And so we want to really take everyone along for the ride because this is exactly the process we would tell our students to go through with or without a partner. And so it's kind of fun to like turn the tables and then be able to share like honestly about how much we're making or like if it's going well. And it kind of replaces some of the things that we're doing now. Like we have figured we need to focus a lot on sponsorship now because we have a big community, we have a platform, but it never like feels easy, I guess. When you make a greeting card, like it feels kind of easy. Like I could just sit down and enjoy myself and make it. But it'll be nice to replace sponsorship outreach with collab outreach. So that's something I'm already doing. I'm just going to change who I'm talking to or what I'm asking for in the emails. So that will be really cool. Yeah, we have some cool ideas that I think we want to work on, but also we have to finish the graphics for our book and editing it and all those things. But we're saying 2025, which feels so far away, is because that's like the whole year. But I think we'll start to trickle in some of this soon, hopefully.
Yeah, and we do have those commitments like the book, and we will do the conference again, I'm sure, next year. So we'll still have,
for sure.
And like we'll have the educational stuff going on, but yeah, we'll just also be a lot more focused on our personal careers and like Ilana said, bringing y'all along for the ride. And I think it's just a twist on the educational content we've been doing already.
Exactly.
Like it's less theory and more practice, which is I think what people are really craving. They're like, okay, I hear you teaching me this, but like I want to see the proof. I want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think we're down to like be very open about when things go well and when things don't go well. Mm-hmm. And just, be as genuine about the process as possible and just see what happens when we are able to give it a lot more of our attention.
I think one of the ways, like a really good example of how this will look is that I have been represented by a licensing agency, but I have not been submitting any new work. So like they can use my old work, but I'm not very proud of my old work. You know, I've grown a lot. And so I haven't shared a lot of like samples I've gotten, or when I share my royalty reports, every time I share them, I'm like, should I share? Because they're kind of low. And like, I don't want to discourage people from starting in licensing because they see how much I'm making and they think it should be way more. And so I've been like feeling those things, but I typically share it anyway. And imagine if I actually tried. Like, imagine if I
I think put the passive income that you've been making, most people are like, oh, wow, that's so helpful to your income.
But as I think teacher, I'm like, is that enough?
You're like, I'm not making $100,000 a year from licensing and I feel like I should be because I'm teaching it. Yeah.
Right. Like if I'm an expert on this, why am I not making more? And it's like, well, I'm literally not making any art.
Because you're spending all your time doing the teaching. And that's the freaking catch-22 of being an educator. So yeah, we're trying to find some kind of middle ground where we can be doing both things that bring us joy. Yeah. And I think it's really important for us to be super honest about our journey as entrepreneurs as well and the art world, because we're all seeing Insta famous artists and we're not seeing any of their trials. We're just seeing their
Yeah.
best moments, their most curated moments. So, I mean, being a business owner is difficult. It has these ups and downs, and I just want to be transparent about the good and the times where we're struggling.
Yeah, I want to add that humanity to Good Type. And
Yeah.
like, I love when people know who we are and they know that we're real people and that it's not just about vanity metrics, or like when people say to us, we said this with Liz the other day, people say to us like, oh my God, you have such a huge community. Like, we have continued to feel like we have to prove that we deserve it almost. And like, we're so happy to be here. And this is not our fan base or our community. This is like an actual community of people who support each other and love each other. And so I also feel like when we're seeing people online be like, here's how I made 6 figures overnight, you're like, you didn't show us any of the process. And also, that cost you 7 figures. Like, sure, you made 6 figures, but it cost you 7. And so it's really important for us, if we're going to be teachers, which is a huge part of what we do and will continue to be a huge part of what we do, we have to share the other piece of it. And so, yes, we are doing the conference again. Unless something changes, I already have a list of people I'm going to reach out to. And we love doing it because we made it because we wanted it. We were like, oh, it'd be so cool to go to a conference right now, but it's still pandemic-y. Let's do something. We still really love it. And it's a way for us to connect with our community all over the world. We love our courses. That's a huge part of our income. We like teaching together. We just don't plan to add any new courses to the mix at this moment. Right now, anything that we haven't already like gotten in the works, it just seems like it pulled away a lot of our time this year. And we're really excited to make art. Maybe halfway through the year, we'll be like, oh my God, wait, I hate it. Who knows? But right now, we're feeling really called to make more work and also get back to our roots of like working with clients, continue working with each other and see where that goes, and really like go back to where our students are and go through with all the things we've learned as educators too.
Yeah, I think a huge pillar of how like I want to exist in the world is based on what I saw my dad go through as I was growing up. He was like a professional musician for his like 20s and 30s, and then really struggled. He went to Brazil and was like playing with the Brazil Philharmonic and was playing timpani, and he was teaching and just like had the accolades this man has are insane. And the people he studied under, like he studied under Vic Firth, who is like, you see his name on all the drumsticks. Like, it's iconic. But he came back from Brazil and had just such a tough time finding a job. And he and my mom wanted to have a family. And he is a very risk averse person and just wants to have, because of his childhood, he wants to have a lot of security where he can. And so he went into a job at IBM that he ended up just hating, but it brought in money and security, and our family was able to feel safe because he had that job. So he made a sacrifice, but oh my gosh, was he miserable, and he was gone a lot. And he just instilled in me, like, do something that you love, because so much of your day is filled with that. So much of your life is filled with that. And yeah, he just taught me to really prioritize my happiness in my work. And so that's always been a pillar for me. So anytime I feel that push or pull of like, uh-oh, I'm starting to not love the scenario I'm in, I start to have alarm bells going off in my head of like, okay, I'm probably going to have to make a change. So there's always this period of like unsettling kind of feelings until I decide, okay, I'm going to have to be brave and make a change. But yeah, the first time I felt that was in my art direction job, which I'd put in 4 years of school to prep for. And I literally in high school got art director on my aptitude test. Which is so funny. So everything was like leading me up to this point. And so it was really scary when I got to that point. And like 3 years in, I got my alarm bells and I was like, oh, I'm coming home really depressed every day. I just want to leave. And so I was scared. I didn't want to have to make a change because I thought this was going to be like my thing. But I eventually had to face that. And so that's when I decided to go out on my own, which was very scary and actually caused me to start having panic attacks. I feel pretty called to talk about mental health and entrepreneurship as well because I've faced a lot of trials with it. But anyway, I'm starting to feel some of the same alarm bells now, not like as loud. I feel like I'm in the right arena, but my direction's a little bit off. Like I'm facing east and I need to face west kind of
Right.
thing. It's scary to feel like you need to
It
make a
is.
change, but hopefully, like, if you're hearing this and you've got your alarm bells, maybe this will be the encouragement you need to give yourself permission to make a change because you deserve to be happy in life.
It's true, you do. And
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for talking to me about it and for sharing it here because I think it's really, really, it's so important. It is the most important thing. And also just that your dad was able to turn around and champion you because he knows
Yeah.
that the decisions he made were not the ones he would want you to make necessarily. And I think that's so wow to be able to just say like, don't just do what I did because it's the choice I made. You got to make your own choice for your own happiness. And he's such a supporter, even though both of our parents, my mom is incredibly creative. She's a watercolor artist, but I don't think most of our parents and probably their entire generation understand exactly what we do, but they're super here for it. Like they're get it, good job, but they're going to celebrate our accolades, but they might not fully understand them. Yeah, and it's interesting because we had our family upbringings are just so completely different. And both my parents were entrepreneurs. I didn't have such severe fear about it because it just was another option. Like it was never like, well, that's a risky thing. It was just kind of like, well, you could do it for yourself. It's just, you could be an art director, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be this, you could be that. And so there's a lot to unpack when it comes to family, but I'm so proud of you. And I do want to add something because not that this is not about me, but like this whole conversation is not about my experience, but I think it's helpful
Well, it
to
is.
add.
You should definitely
I just,
share your experience.
I think what I mean is like my mental health. I've had my own journey with my mental health, but something that when you shared this with me, I was reminded, not because of what you said, but I was just reminded as I was looking through our work and trying to figure out, like, am I happy? This is a good time. Like, has all of this been stressful for me or am I good with it all? I took some time to think about how I felt. And it was just a reminder that I constantly measure my own value in how productive I am.
Ugh.
Yeah, bleh.
I'm so understanding of that. Yeah, we
Yeah.
both really share that.
Yeah. And part of this is because I have ADHD, and I don't mean I have ADHD that I diagnosed myself from Dr. TikTok. I mean, I went through all the testing when I was in either elementary or middle school. And I remember the testing. I remember my parents being the most supportive. I started on ADHD medication. Actually, this was when it was called ADD instead of ADHD, but now it's all one umbrella. I had not a tutor, but like a classroom that I could go to. I could take all my tests in separate rooms. And art was the thing that like, I never was like so good at art, but it was like the thing that I didn't have to memorize anything. It still took a ton of effort, but I just always wanted to be creative. I like knew. And when I found graphic design, I was like, I am going to crush this. It was just so natural for me. And the school systems are not meant for neurodivergency, but I was for sure a girl boss, a product of the girl boss era. I inhaled anything that was about entrepreneurship. I definitely thought more is more is more is more is more. And having kids to me has been like the thing that I was like, I literally cannot, like, I cannot work another hour. I will fall on my face and collapse. And even to this day, like, I have really good boundaries. And I'm actually, like, maybe to a fault, very clear about them with friendships, with what I'm willing to say yes to and things like that. But also when it comes to work, I still have my phone on me too often. I still check my email too many times a day.
I can
Katie
so
knows
attest
this.
to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's answering emails at all times of the day
Yeah.
and like within 1 second of receiving them.
I actually, if I see an email too early, I will wait to respond as to not give the appearance of having seen it right away. I still have toxic energy, but I'm learning to get better at it. And I think recognizing it is a good first step. But also, we've found ways to like share our to-do list with it not feeling as overwhelming to me, because Katie said this to me once and I did not. It like blew my brain off. You explained the thing about a timeline, like the
Oh yeah,
task.
I saw a TikTok that was like
Dr. TikTok.
Dr. TikTok that was like, here's what a neurotypical
Or
brain,
is that right?
yeah, sees a timeline, and it was laid out horizontally. And then they said, here's how someone with ADHD sees a timeline. And it was all the potential to-dos, A-list, B-list, C-list, every possible thing that they had to do from now to eternity was laid out vertically. Everything was
Today.
like important right now. It's like
Yeah.
pressing on my brain. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I understand Ilana.
Yeah, no, it is pressing on my brain. Like I literally always have a list of things. And it's also because if I don't write it down, I will forget it. And so it's like the only way for me to commit it to memory, the only way for me to actually accomplish it is for it to be prioritized. And so I've done a lot of work on this, and it can be such a skill as a business owner. It can also be exhausting and a downfall. And so I just recognize that I am like 1000% still tying my value to my productivity. So I'm actually really excited for this next year to challenge me into like feeling like I'm really proud of the work I'm doing and not feeling like we need to do more. But I'm sure we're going to stay busy. Like we're not going to sit on our ass and like twiddle our thumbs.
Oh, no.
Like that's not what we're doing here. But I also think it'll be a really good challenge and hopefully really fun.
Well, I had a really big breakthrough with my therapist recently because we were talking about one of my core belief systems, which is what you just said. I'm not a valuable person unless I'm being productive. But she took it one step further and was like, it's not just you feel like you need to be productive. You feel like you need to be improving always.
Ooh.
And I was like,
whoa.
oh, it's, yeah, no. So
Yeah,
she was
same.
like, she was like, this is why you never feel like you can celebrate accomplishments because the bar immediately moves. As soon as you get to
Immediately.
as soon as you get to the accomplishment, the next accomplishment is the next thing you need to do. She was like, you don't know how to celebrate.
No.
And she said the words, you don't know how to be satisfied. And
No.
I just like laid there.
Wow.
And she had to let me go early because she was like,
you're done. See you later.
Yeah. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, I've just sat with the you don't know how to be satisfied thing for a while and let it percolate. And it is
brain is broken right now.
Yeah.
You just like stuck your fingers inside my brain hole. And you were
wait, have you watched the new Deadpool?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Literally what they do.
It's literally what they do. It's disgusting. That's how I feel right now. It's like you went inside the depths of my soul and you were like, you don't know how to be like, even with food, it's like, I will not be hungry and I will see chocolate cake and I'll be like, maybe that'll do it.
Well, I think that's an important theme we should also bring maybe with us next year because we could easily take this experiment and turn it into the same thing we've been doing to ourselves and like overdo it.
Refuse. I probably will do it and you'll have to pull me out and say,
well, I think we should go in with the intention of like, the goal is joy and we want to feel satisfied in our lives. And that's like a long-term goal. And being satisfied doesn't equal
progress.
Always always making things better, always having more clients, more. That is not what satisfied feels like to me. But yet I still try to aim for that for some reason.
This is so deep. I'm actually shook that neither of us is crying at this very moment. Now
I've
that
already had my moments.
So 2 things I want to say is I've shared this story before, but the day after my book launch, so in I think it was 2019, I woke up and I was like, I'm so depressed. I can't get out of bed. And I texted my mom and I can't remember the exact words. I probably shared it with you or shared it somewhere else, but she basically was like, you just got to the top of the roller coaster and now you're like coming down. It's like you worked so hard and now it's over. And it's the same thing. It's like, I'm always like, well, maybe I'll write another book. Maybe I'll write another book. Maybe I'll write another book. And yeah, I feel that so deeply. I just want to like quickly nod. We don't talk about our husbands a lot on here or like our personal life, besides letting everyone know that I'm a parent because it is a huge hat that I wear. He is so good at that. And a really good example is that he was a professional BMX racer and got injured and he's great now. I mean, he does have a concussion at this very moment, but he's fine. But he now can ride his bike just for fun. And I'm like, are you ever pissed that like you missed out on your chance to like go to the Olympics or make this your career? And he's like, honestly, that would be a job and that wouldn't be fun. And I'm like, okay, but like you could go to the Olympics. And he's like, yeah, that sounds awful. I would ride so much it would not be fun. And right now it's so fun for him. And even when he like now he races locally and he's even like gone to really, really big races where he's done well and against people that race all over the country. And still he goes in just to have fun. Like, sure, he's mad when like he gets a technical or he falls, but he's never like, man, I should have gotten first. Like, he's just like, that was a great race. And I'm like, you are wired differently
Let's
than
all
me.
be like Greg.
I know. And even like afterwards.
And my husband's great at that too.
That's what I was going to ask, if he's good at that too. And his passion is his job. And like Greg comes home after work, which is not riding his bike, and he doesn't typically bring anything with him. And I'm like, how'd you do that? And like, so, one time I asked him this. We've been married, 10 years together for like 800. I asked him, like, what do you do when you're riding? Because I was a swimmer. So like my brain would like, I have a lot of things that I would do when I was swimming. He was like, I just like ride and look at the trees and just ride my bike. And I was like, are you meditating? And he was like, I don't know. Am I? He like meditates. And he didn't
accidental
even know.
meditation.
Like, and then he's also, which makes sense, he's also the type of person who like you get in bed and you put your head on the pillow and he's asleep. And I'm like, how do you do that? And he's like, I just think it's time to go to sleep. And then I just go to sleep. I'm like,
oh my God.
Who are you? Oh my God.
Like sometimes men are just like built differently.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'm married to the Buddha.
No. I mean, I know obviously not all men. It seems like women have a much harder time overall compartmentalizing things. But yeah, Jared, my husband, he's a 9 on the Enneagram. He's a very chill dude. He is like so good at being satisfied, but yet he has the ambition as well. So it's like he is my goal.
Yeah.
And it's so good
it's
to
right
be
there in front
him.
of us.
I know, it's so good to be around him because he's such a voice of like calm and
he is a calming presence.
He's a good guidepost for me and a good offset to my energy.
Yeah. Was he, when you told him about our plans, was he like, that sounds perfect? Did he have comments?
Well, the weird thing is I didn't tell him until yesterday.
Oh.
No, 2 days ago.
Gosh.
2 days ago, because I like still didn't want to say it out loud because I was still grappling with like, I'm going to have to make a change. I'm going to have to shift my mindset. And I was psychoanalyzing, what does this mean that I don't want to talk to him about this yet? But I finally was like, okay, I have the energy to share this. And he was like, as soon as it came out of my mouth, he's like, I absolutely love that. So he's like fully on board. He was like, I think that's such a good idea.
I had a couple conversations with Greg about mostly like financial things, how that would work. And he had basically the same reaction. That sounds great. I mean, again, like
we're so
unless
lucky.
You're in our job, you don't know what we do. We did marry some cool people. Yeah, I'm really excited. So I guess we wanted to just like share what that's going to look like. Again, outwardly facing, the things that you know us for are going to stay the same. What's going to change is that we're going to talk really openly about this process, what our goals are, and we're going to share them in real time or as close to real time as we can edit content, basically. But I know for me, I'm going to pick like a passion project. I've shared with Katie a couple things that like were on my bucket list, and we'll pick maybe one each quarter or something for each of us, and we'll try and tackle them, and we'll see if it works and we'll see if it doesn't, and we'll share it either way. And then financially, I should say, like, we are so privileged to be able to do this knowing that we still have income. We have a salary basically coming from our courses and from the other work that we do and from our book. And so we're in a position to be able to do this. And so if you're working a full-time job, that's kind of your investor, and that's an opportunity to do something like this as well. But we can't dismiss the fact that we like have worked really hard to set up a business that would allow us space to do this. And obviously we will still be working on plenty of good type things that already exist. I mean, our courses, we're in there every week. We do partnerships that a lot of our community doesn't see because they're with other communities. And so we're really lucky to have something that already exists that can, and our book, which will pay us royalties while we're on this adventure. But we're going to share about it. I don't know how often yet, but we'll definitely be doing podcast episodes. Maybe we'll do a few YouTube videos. We'll share about it on social. Neither of us like show up on stories a lot. And so maybe we'll pop in more frequently, or we'll do reels or something to give you an update. But we're excited. And I would love to hear from anyone. what you want to see, or if there's like something that you've struggled with, maybe we can share a piece into that, whether it's outreach or whether it's building your portfolio, whatever it may be, we'll share along the way. And we'll still have some interviews that we've got lined up. So we'll share that too.
And yeah, I just want to clarify too with the financial side of things. We definitely do have some stuff set up, but it's not going to be a cakewalk. And we do have we do have to make money from this. So there is some pressure on it. And I'm sure it's crossed your mind, like, I wonder how much those Good Type girls are making from Good Type. We're making like
a salary, salary.
A normal to low salary for adult women our age.
Yeah.
I don't want the impression to be like we're millionaires and we're just like able to kind of do whatever. Like, it's difficult to make money and be an entrepreneur in whatever kind of category you're in. So yeah, if you're struggling out there like with the finances, we're not immune to that. Believe us.
Yeah. And I think it might be helpful if we do some, and if people are interested, if we do some videos where we break down like how much it costs to run our business and potentially how much we're making on certain pieces. But I think we generally are pretty transparent about that, but happy to do a whole episode where we talk more about that, or at least what we're allowed to share that isn't under like NDA. But it costs a lot of money to run a business the more you scale it. Even a digital business, like there are a lot of expenses to cover. And then there's two of us, so we each want to make a salary. And yeah, I think we see so much of these social posts that are like, here's how I made $200,000. And then it literally does not say it cost me 100,000 or it cost me 150. Sure, there are like anomalies, but it's just such an unrealistic standard. And we're not trying to do like the 4-hour work week or like sit on the beach as millionaires. We live very quote unquote normal lives. And I think it'll be nice to share some of that. But if you are struggling as a freelancer, just know that we have heard from like 90% of our community, even the like top tier professionals that we know and like have a line of connection with, they've even said, my business used to make $500,000 and this year we are not anywhere close. And so if you are feeling that and you're feeling the weight of it and you're like considering getting a part-time job or trying to figure out what to do, like you are not alone. I think this year specifically has been tough.
Yeah. Well, I guess to cap this off, what we kind of hope you get out of this or like will join us on is the pursuit of not having the Sunday Scaries for our lives. I think we all deserve that. I think it's scary, but if we're able, I think it's always worth it to make changes when you aren't happy. And as humans, our brains are wired to resist change. Like if we're surviving in the scenario that we're in now, we want to stay in it because that's what your brain is wired for, just survival. It's like, okay, it's working somewhat, so don't change anything because it could go worse. But the change is so worth it if you're willing and able to make it. And even like small changes, whatever you can do to point yourself more towards your own happiness and ultimately that satisfaction that we are looking for. Like, what does it feel like to be satisfied? That's the journey that we're on, and we hope you'll join us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's going to be great. Please leave a review. We literally have never asked before. Please leave us a review so we can keep doing the podcast and more people can find it. And if you want to hear something specific about this journey, or you've got ideas for series we should create out of it, like starving artists to satisfied, I don't know. We're not starving artists, and I hate that term. But anyway, please email us or leave a comment or whatever you do on whatever platform. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
All good things.
All good things.